Hey friends, and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, then hello and welcome. My name is Kara, and today I'm just going to be sharing my thoughts with you on some of the recent makeup items that I've tried out. I really have not been buying a lot of makeup, so I don't have a wide variety to share with you, but I really wanted in particular to highlight the Haus Labs eyeshadow palette that I picked up recently. And I thought while I'm doing that, I may as well talk about some of the other items because some of them are hits and there is one that is most definitely a miss. So let's just jump straight into it. Before we get to the eyeshadow palette, I'll talk about all the others so that we can then just focus on the shadow. I'll apply them on screen and give you my thoughts on it. So let's talk really quickly about what I've got going on my nails. This is a Sally Hansen gel nail polish in Peppermint to Be. It's labeled as being step 1 of their 2-part miracle gel system. As you may be able to see in the bottle, this is more like a jelly type finish nail polish with little bits of white confetti, if you will. And as you can see on my nails, the application is questionable at best. These kind of nail polishes, frankly, I shouldn't have picked it up. These kind of nail polishes always frustrate me because there's really no uniformity to them, especially with this kind of very thin consistency. It looks streaky. The confetti, I don't really know how else you would describe this, the little bits of white that are in there. Some nails, there's quite a bit, others there's not. I can feel them even though I have top coat on them. Just not a fan, so I thought I would share that experience with you. Now, something that I am very happy about, it is an instant love, so take this very much with a grain of salt. This is really just a first impressions, but my goodness, what a positive first impression it is. It's the cheek products that I'm wearing. So I had a little sample packet here. This is from Westman Atelier. These are their cream products. We've got the contour shade in Biscuit up here. Here, I can do it this way. It's very messy, but there's the contour shade in Biscuit. This is the highlighter in Lit, and this is the cream blush in Petal. And I instantly love all three. And I hate that because they're so expensive, but at least they do have mini sizes, so that kind of helps take the sting out of it a little bit. I do have them added to my love list. I haven't pulled the trigger to purchase them, but my goodness, they are stunning. That highlighter just melds right into the skin, really does collect the light and bounce it back, but there's no glitterness. Glitterness? We'll go with it. There's no glitterness to it. There's no oiliness to it. There's no tackiness on the skin. The contour slash bronzer blended out really nicely. It was buildable, but it did apply very gently, if you will, so it wasn't just like 0 to 60 straight out of the gate. And the blush is beautiful. Very realistic to what my skin naturally flushes to. This is mildly dangerous because they are expensive. The minis are $35 Canadian each, so if we're looking at picking up 3 of them, that's $100 some odd investment. So it's on my Christmas list. We shall see. But I wanted to share those as well. Now, there are 3 other items that I did briefly touch upon in a recent video, but it bears repeating. They are the Dazzle Sticks from KVD Beauty. I've picked up 3 different shades here. I have tried all 3. They are very consistent across the board. I will show you what they look like. So first up, we have Hail Surge. This one is Flash Storm. And then we have Heat Burst. My experience with these products has been very positive. They are very long lasting on the eyes. They don't crease. They don't rain glitter down on your cheeks throughout the day. They're very impactful on the eyes and just beautiful. My experience was that it actually looked better towards the end of the day than it did upon fresh application because it just kind of smoothed itself out and melded into place over the course of the day. The only drawback to them is that they are quite finicky and very fragile. So rather than swiping it onto your eyelid from the tube, I would strongly recommend using a flat brush to pick some of that product up and then deposit it onto your lids. But overall, I'm very happy with these products. Now, I did say that one of these was an absolute miss, and that is the concealer from Live Tinted. Now, let's pause for a second, because if you watched one of my recent videos where I was talking about this concealer, I was saying how much I liked it. I stand by that. The concealer itself is very nice. This is a serum concealer. I was very curious because it claimed full coverage, yet it is a serum concealer. Those two things in my mind don't always align, but I can say that it does have excellent coverage. It doesn't crease up underneath my eyes, but nor does it get really dried out and look cakey. By the end of the day, it's still holding up well, still offering coverage, and hasn't just sort of disappeared into the cracks and crevices near my eyes. The problem with this is the packaging. So it had, yes, past tense, a brush applicator. It now has no applicator whatsoever. So don't always love a brush applicator, especially in a concealer, because I'm always left wondering if it's going to splay by putting it back in, because there's always that little constriction here so that you can get the excess off of the actual wand. And so I did notice that happening. So let me just say I had this for about, I want to say 2 to 3 weeks, not everyday daily wear, but it did the heavy lifting during that period. I did start to notice that some of those bristles in the brush looked longer than the others. And so I very gently just kind of pulled on it just to see if that was just going to be 1 or 2 bristles that came out. And ultimately clumps of the bristles came out until there was nothing left. So I will be returning this, but I wanted to share that with you because I don't know if it was just a singular event and nobody else has had this issue, but I rather think that perhaps the glue they used is just not up to snuff, and there's going to be a high risk of losing bristles or all of them. And that brings us to the eyeshadow palette that I picked up from Haus Labs. Now, I just have to say, when I first saw it on the Sephora website, it had a price tag of somewhere in the $62 to $64 Canadian range. Then when they had their Black Friday sale, I saw it in the sale section for 40 something. I want to say $46, but I can't completely remember. It is now listed on the Sephora Canada website, not at a sale price, but at a new regular price of $33. I feel really bad for anybody who spent over $60 on this palette if it was just a pricing issue. So the one that I picked up is this one here. This is the Volume 2, which is the Super Neutrals palette. Here's the packaging, as you can see. It does show fingerprints. That's not the end of the world to me, but everybody always seems to mention it for whatever reason. It does look metallic. It sounds and feels more like plastic. On the back of the packaging, you do have the shade names and the finish of each across the back, along with the name of the palette. Then opening it up, it does bend back a nice amount. Sometimes I find these ones get stuck like this, which can make it just a little bit awkward, especially if you want to use the mirror. There is one that runs the entire width of the palette here. I like that it folds back. And then we have the shadows here. So starting on this side and moving across, this one here is in a bio glitter. This is called Olive. Beside it has a chrome finish. This is the shade Fuchsia. Next is another chrome finish in the shade Dusty Rose. And then we have 3 matte shadows, Light Peach, Mauve Brown, and Smoky Brown. All right, let's put this bad boy to the test. So I'm going to use a fluffy brush and start off with that light peach shade over here, and we'll see how we get on with it. So as you can see, that shade is essentially my skin tone. So it's really not showing up at me. It's not really showing up on me, which is not necessarily the end of the world for a transition shadow. I don't want it to be super obvious. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to go a little heavy-handed just to see how much depth I can build up with these matte shadows. I should have mentioned at the beginning that I don't have primer on my eyes. When I applied my concealer, I just took whatever was left over on the brush and sort of ran it over just to neutralize some of the discoloration, and then I did set it with a powder so it's not tacky. But I really just kind of want to see how these shadows do on their own. I'm going to move on from that one. I'm going to go into that mauve brown matte over here. I hope I'm pointing at the right one. Yes. So as you can see, these shadows are gentle. There's not a ton of pigmentation to these mattes. We will get into that deeper one. I will use that, but just speaking on the experience that I had with these shadows playing around with it last night, it's not going to get much more dramatic than this. I leave that to your own discretion as to whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. For me, that makes this palette an option for everyday office wear. I mean, I'm my own boss, so I really don't have rules in terms of what kind of makeup I can wear, but I still, my own sense of professionalism, I'm not going to show up at the office with a black smoky eye and glitter. It just is not going to happen. So if this was really deep and dramatic, it would become more of a YouTube video or date night palette, which just don't get as much use in my collection. So I do like that these are a bit more gentle. Having said that, I would like if I could build it up a little bit, but I think I'm going on the third application here, and that's about as deep as that mid-tone shade is going to get. So then let's go into Smoky Brown, which is the deepest one. Now this one, frankly, all of these mattes, they are called matte on the back. This deepest one in particular, I think, is more of a satin. It's not, there's no glitter in it, it's not metallic, there's nothing like that, but it's not like a true matte, if you will. There's a little bit of a sheen to it. Oh, and there is some fallout, but to be fair, I did not tap off the excess because I forgot to. I will take care of that fallout in a moment. So as you can see, even though I did go in fairly heavy-handed into the pan, this is not like a fully opaque matte shadow. The blendability is there, and they do all sort of blend into each other. But if you're looking for a really deep and dramatic, this palette's not going to deliver that for you. All right, that's about as good as we're going to get with the mattes. So now I do want to go in with one of the chrome shadows. I'm going to go in with Dusty Pink. I'm going to apply that all over the inner half of my lid, and then we're going to go in with this guy over here. I don't think I'm going to use fuchsia today, if only because these two have the same finish, and I just not feeling bright pink these days. I'm just not feeling it. So let's start off with Dusty Pink. There is a little bit of pliability, I guess you could say, in the shadow. It's not quite powdery, but it's also not a cream. It does pick up on the brush, but not super easily. I do kind of have to wiggle it a little bit. And I am going to hit this with a little bit of setting spray just to give it the best chance possible of adhering. I am pleased to say that the chrome finish shadows in here, they are not gentle. Like they do show up very nicely, very impactful on the eyes. Again, not glittery, not chunky, but very beautiful and very reflective nonetheless. Blends out really nicely. I have no complaints about these chrome shadows. So now I'm going to go over into Olive and pick that up with an even smaller flat brush and just put that on the very inner portion. Again, the shadow does have sort of that like hybrid feel to it where it does have a little bit of a bounce to it without being super wet. I'm sure you just saw a little bit of it flake off. They are a little bit delicate in the pan. Not terrible, like they don't shift away completely underneath the brush, and I'm certainly not pressing super hard. But all that to say, this is the kind of thing that I think a setting spray is quite helpful for so that it doesn't flake off as you're trying to apply it. And again, these apply really beautifully to the eyes, and it has a very beautiful reflection to it. These are called a bio glitter. From this distance, just looking at my mirror, I don't really see much of a difference in terms of the finish between the chrome and the bio glitter. There is a little tiny bit more, I don't want to say chunkiness, but like you can see the particles maybe a little bit more in here than you do in the chrome, but it's pretty subtle. Like the difference between the two finishes is pretty darn subtle. As well, I just want to point out that this one is called Olive. I'd argue maybe Taupe might be a slightly better name for it. I acknowledge I just put it on top of pink, so it is going to look a little bit more pink. But here, let's just put it on the back of my hand. Olive is not necessarily the first word that would come to mind when I look at that shade. But you know what, while we have something on the back of my hand, I'm also going to apply the fuchsia chrome beside it so that you can see that one in action, first of all, but also so that you can see the finish on it. Again, these are a little bit tricky to pick up on a brush. Obviously, I've already got some on there. Just trying to build it up so you can see it as much as possible. So again, that's the chrome finish and that's the bio glitter. Well, and as I sit here trying to fix my entire under eye situation, I know what I just said about the bio glitter not looking all that much more glittery. It certainly looks more glittery underneath my eyes. So there is some fallout. There is definitely glitter in it because I don't have any, like the pink didn't transfer down. But those little particles are very, very small. Okay, I'm gonna finish up over here and then I'll come back and say goodbye. And there we have the final look. To pull everything together on my lips, I'm wearing one of the lipsticks from Merit in the shade Slip. So those are the items that I have tried most recently. I'd love to hear from you in the comments, some items that you have tried. What have your experiences been, negative or positive? If you've tried the Live Tinted Concealer, have you had the same issue with the applicator? I'd love to hear that as well. But for now, I'm going to wrap the video up here. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch. I will see you in my next video. And until then, just be a decent human being. Bye for now.